recording.
Hi, my name is Kristen Coleman, and I'm a program specialist at the State Department in the Special Services Office. And today I'm going to give a quick brief overview over the Oklahoma Alternate Assessment Program for this year. Okay, today's agenda, we're going to go over the OAAP, the participation requirements, the characteristics of students who participate in the OAAP, participation cap and waiver, support and resources, and a little bit about implementing the DLM and structurally embedded assessments and year-end assessments. Okay, the OAAP overview. The Oklahoma Alternate Assessment Program is a component of the Oklahoma School Testing Program and is designed for students with the most significant cognitive disabilities. These students generally represent 1% of the total tested population of students. The total testing population includes all general education students as well as special education students who are tested in your district. It's not just 1% of the special education students. Okay, our participation. The IEP team must determine annually that the alternate assessment is most appropriate for the student, and the student must meet the state established criteria identified in the checklist. This is an important decision made by the entire team every year at the child's IEP meeting. That includes parents, special education teacher, general education teacher, and administrators. And it is a good idea to make sure everyone on the team is familiar with the criteria checklist and fully understands it. And this is a sample of the criteria checklist that is found in EdPlan. For a student to qualify for the alternate assessment, all questions must be answered yes. It's also important to remember that not only does the student have a significant cognitive disability, he or she must also have significant adaptive behavior deficits. Even if one question is answered no, that student does not qualify for an alternate assessment and must participate in the regular assessment with accommodations. As you can see on this checklist, there's just 5 questions to answer, but they're really in detail, each one of those questions, and they must be answered yes, all of them, for the student to participate in the OAAP. Okay, the question 1 are adaptive behavior deficits. They must be apparent in the IEP with goals and objectives included in order to participate in the OAAP. Does the student have significant intellectual disability and significant adaptive behavior deficits? Both, that is a 2-part question. It must be answered yes. Current and comprehensive adaptive behavior data should be used when making the decision. So that needs to be within a year. If he's had adaptive behavior assessments, those need to be within a year. Nothing older than that when you're going over the information. And it should be available for all domains of the adaptive behavior scale in order to be considered comprehensive. And here are the different adaptive behavior domains. Communication, interacting with others using expressive, receptive language, writing and listening. Daily living skills, eating, dressing, hygiene, toileting, and grooming. Home living, caring for others, housekeeping, social, getting along with others, being aware of other people's feelings and being able to form close relationships. Motor skills, fine and gross motor skills. Practical academics, literacy, numeracy, etc., and the community. Being able to access transportation, shopping, safety, and medical. So you consider all of those domains, the communication, daily living, socialization, and fine motor skills when you're talking about adaptive behavior deficits. Okay, the second question, does every section of the student's IEP reflect the severity of the student's disability? Okay, if a student qualifies for the OAAP, it needs to be shown when writing the IEP. Essential elements need to be used when writing goals, and all goals must have objectives included. And also, can you see that an alternate achievement standard is necessary in all content areas? Are your present levels of performance, do they indicate a severe, profound disability? So these are all things to think about when you're deciding whether this student actually does qualify for an alternate assessment. Okay, and our next question is lifelong supports. Does the IEP team feel extensive family community supports will be a requirement regardless of modifications, accommodations, or adaptations implemented in the student's program? This is an important question to ask the IEP team is, will this student need lifelong supports? Are we concerned for this student's safety? And will this student ever be able to live alone? Just some important things to think about. And another participation requirement, the question is regarding multiple settings. Does this student need help and assistance throughout the entire day in all settings, not just at school, but does he or she need assistance in relating to the community, at church, in certain activities that he may do extracurricular? So not just sitting in his classroom. Okay, and question 7 is based on the student's disability. The decision to place a student on the alternate assessment must be based on severe discrepancies in cognition and adaptive behavior. A student cannot be placed on an alternate assessment because of poor reading skills, or he's absent or she's absent a lot, or he has disruptive behavior, or you might think that you might want to put a student on the alternate assessment because he or she may be, might fail the regular assessment. That's not something to think about when you're thinking about placing a student on the alternate assessment, because there are a lot of students that probably might not pass the regular assessment, but they definitely don't qualify for an alternate assessment. Okay, this is parents of OAAP students. ESSA requires districts to inform parents when their children or child will participate in the OAAP. And the parents also need to be made aware that this does not affect or delay their child from graduating with a standard Oklahoma high school diploma. This is a parent brochure that parents should be receiving at every IEP meeting. I put in, it's also located in EdPlan and on the Oklahoma State Department website under Assessment for Special Education. And you can also, I put Abby Johnson's contact information if your district ever wants them to be printed out. Abby can print them out for you and mail them to your district. So, and this is also available in Spanish as well. Okay, this is Oklahoma's definition of a student with the most significant cognitive disability. The whole definition is important, but I think the last 2 sentences are very important because that addresses areas that are concerned throughout their lifetime. These students require substantial supports for all activities of daily living, including meal preparation, dressing, grooming, and personal hygiene. Their personal safety is dependent upon constant supervision and will be a concern throughout their lifetime. Okay, now we're going to dive a little bit into characteristics of OAAP students. Okay, available nationwide data reflects most students with a significant cognitive disability are in the categories of intellectual disabilities, autism, and multiple disabilities. And it's important to know that those are not the only disability categories, but just the most prevalent. There are many cases where a student can have autism or have an intellectual disability, but not qualify for an alternate assessment. So it's never based, we always say it's never based on the disability, the category disability. It's always based on that individual student. Okay, these are characteristics of OAAP students' communication skills in this graph. Pre-symbolic, which is in the blue, is 10%. Symbolic, which includes gestures, pictures, use of objects, is 17%. And most of them are expressive in communication. 72% verbal or written words, signs, braille, and augmentative and alternative communication. It's kind of an interesting graph there. Okay. Characteristics of OAAP students' receptive communication skills. There's no evident response to stimuli is 3%. Show an alert response but do not follow simple directions without support is 9%. Able to follow 1 to 2 step directions when provided cues, such as pictures or objects, is at 40%. And able to follow 1 to 2 step directions without cues, and that's at 48%. Okay, we're going to talk about the participation cap. I've mentioned before, ESSA, Every Student Succeeds Act, places a cap on statewide participation in the alternate assessment at 1%. The 1% is calculated from all students in the district testing gen ed and special ed. As you know, usually the participation rate percentage is lower for science because there are less students who are tested in science. And there's just an example of Oklahoma's participation percentage for the 2018-19 school year was 1.65% in reading and math. So that was a little bit over our 1% cap, or our goal that we all try to reach for per district. But it is based off each subject area, 1% of math, 1% of ELA, 1% of science. So it's not just one percentage rate across the board. Okay, our State Department of Education was granted a waiver by the United States Education Department for the school year 2018 and 19. And when they granted our waiver, they put stipulations in what the State Department must do, and that is demonstrate growth towards the 1%, provide professional development, which is on-site training, justification statements, which you guys are probably familiar with, or we do some targeted desktop monitoring. If we notice a district is pretty well over the 1%, we will look into that district's paperwork and kind of see why they are over the 1%. And the Department of Ed, the U.S. Department of Ed, does keep up with what we are doing to help with that monitoring. Okay, moving forward into this school year, 2021. As always, it is vital that you consider the appropriate test for every individual student yearly at the IEP meeting. Again, I will repeat, if a student is going to take the alternate assessment, he or she's goals must be aligned to the essential elements, which are found on the DLM Oklahoma website and also on our alternate assessment. If you click on our website and go to special education under assessment, all the blueprints and manuals for DLM are there also. And there are times when a student does not qualify for the OAAP, but the team As a team, you can put in some very strong accommodations to assist the student. And we will request, the State Department will request a waiver for the 2019-2020 school year this coming fall. So it's always kind of like a year behind. Okay, moving forward into this year, just make sure your staff understands who are the students with the most significant cognitive disabilities. There is some good training on Pepper and OK Ed Plan that talks about students who are on the alternate assessment. If a district needs training, that can be done as a group or individual. IEP team members should understand the purpose of the alternate assessment, and also to analyze data for the unique reasons. Do you see any unusual spikes? Is it your population size? Is it contextual? So you really need to look at the data of these students and really decide if the alternate assessment is appropriate for them. A lot of times when we do monitor districts that have a high rate of students on the alternate assessment, is if you really get in and look at the students' information and testing. I have known some districts to have found that a lot of it was because they were putting students on the OAAP when they really didn't have the adaptive behavior deficits. So that is a two-part question. It is an intellectual cognitive disability and the adaptive behavior. Okay, as you guys know, the OAAP is delivered through Dynamic Learning Maps, DLM, Alternate Assessment, which is an online platform. And this is Oklahoma's 6th year of implementing the OAAP through DLM. Okay, DLM offers 2 types of testing. Oklahoma is a year-end state. That just means that all of our students are tested at the end of the year instead of a few times throughout the year. And I did put our testing window. It opens up March 8th of 2021 and closes May 7th of 2021. And then the instructionally embedded is optional. That started last year. And we highly recommend using those instructionally embedded assessments throughout the year. The window opens September 14th and closes February 24th, right before the year-end testing begins. We recommend this because it actually really helps the student be familiar with the platform and the testlets and kind of what his year-end test or her year-end test is going to look like. But will also, it really benefits teachers the most, I believe, because it helps the teachers with lesson planning for the students and helps assist with writing IEP goals. So that's something to take advantage of. And you don't have to do it for every subject or for every child. If you just want to go in there for a child and maybe just do the math instructionally embedded. It's not a requirement, it is optional, but it is very helpful once you get in there and start getting used to it. Okay, this is just our testing schedule. It mirrors the Oklahoma State testing program in regards to grade levels and subjects assessed. So the history is 11th grade only. It's just like last year, the same schedule. Okay, we do have a lot of OAAP resources. We have district level resources for district test coordinators, directors, and teachers. There's a lot of videos, sample videos, DLM professional development. It gives you samples of familiar text that will be used. And this is all on that. If you just type in your Google bar, DLM Oklahoma, it comes up and it's everything that's offered to all this to Oklahoma. And it's a lot of great information. And also there's requirements for test administrators. It must be completed annually prior to administering the OAAP. And I know that has already started on the Moodle training, started August the 5th. This is what our homepage looks like. What I keep referring to is our special education website. You just scroll down from that services bar to special ed. And then over on your far right, you will click on assessment. And then there's a lot of information on assessment, but then I think one of the most helpful resources is all of these DLM resources. It's the Educator Portal link, your blueprints, your manuals, your guides and trainings for this year. That's where you will also find all of the essential elements for all the subjects listed. So it's a great resource. Okay, on our OAAP homepage, there's a section that says 2021 updates and memos. That's where you can sign yourself up to be a part of the listserv. So every Tuesday and Thursday, our special education office sends out an email. And if there is ever any new information regarding OAAP or DLM or a training or anything regarding special ed, that's where you'll find it. It's our updates and memos, and you just click on that blue form where it says form, and that'll take you directly to the sign up sheet to be a part of that. And that's a lot of good information. I highly recommend that. If you're not on that, to go ahead and sign up for that. And there is my information in our special ed office. And then Oklahoma is really lucky. We have a DLM assistance and support line, and it's just for Oklahoma to use. And so they are very quick to respond. Like, say, for instance, I can't help you with changing your Educator Portal password. That's something you'll have to call in the DLM help desk with. So that's a good number to keep handy, because they're very quick to respond and they can get you taken care of really quick. Thank you for joining me on this recording. If you have any questions, there's my information. Feel free to email me or give me a call and I will get back with you. And one other thing I would like to announce is that a person from DLM is also going to be doing a recorded webinar, which will also be available in September to go more in depth with the testlets and all of that information. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.